What's up, my peeps? Today I want to talk about the New York hip hop sound and how it's gotten to where it was to where it is now. Now the New York sound is not even really a New York sound, if you ask me. So I did a lot of thinking about that and was thinking to myself, like, how do we get to this point in the New York hip hop sound? Like, why does it not have any originality when New York is, when it comes to hip hop, I mean, it's the birthplace of hip hop, and I mean, they were full of creativity back in the days and was pretty much setting the standard for every region in the country. Okay, got my notes right here. All right, so in the late 70s and early 80s, when hip hop was forming, DJ Kool Herc would have these parties, okay? And this is when they were, developing the sound, all right? Now, in hip hop, what created this whole thing pretty much, Kool Herc would take a sample or a section out of a song, out of a disco or a funk song, and the bridge part of it, he would like take that section and he would extend it or loop it or blend it in with another one. And, the crowd would pretty much go crazy. They would react to, that section. This is how B-Boy got into, into formation. People started breakdancing to those type of beats that DJ Kool Herc was delivering. And when this is dealing with two elements of hip hop, okay? You got dancing, breakdancing, dancing/breakdancing, and you have DJing, okay? Now, as a DJ, your job is to keep the crowd moving, keep the crowd dancing, keep the party live, okay? That's what you're supposed to do, all right? Now, when Kool Herc would get that reaction out of a crowd from a certain beat, this is me assuming, I'm guessing, okay? I'm assuming that when DJ Kool Herc, when he would get a great reaction out of the crowd from certain songs, it would prompt him to play more of that, or songs that has that same beats per minute, that same pace, okay? So he can get that reaction, out of the crowd. And when people started rapping over these beats, I'm assuming that the MC would want to rap over the one that was getting the most reaction out of the crowd, the one that was getting the people dancing and shit like that. That's what the MC wanted to rap over. This is me assuming, okay? Now, in the 80s, when the rappers started coming about with, Kool Moe Dee, Grandmaster Caz, cats like this, I'm pretty sure that the reaction that they were getting would dictate the type of stuff that they would do, okay? And what I mean by that is, let's say Grandmaster Caz get up there and he raps over this beat, and, he not getting much feedback from the crowd from it. Nobody's really breakdancing or anything. He like, okay, scrap that. I'll never perform that shit again, okay? And then if he would get a good reaction out of the crowd, he's like, okay, I want more stuff like that, okay? So what I'm basically saying is, it's like a supply and demand, okay? With a DJ and a rapper, you're supplying what the B-boys and the dancers in the crowd want, okay? It's a give and take. Now when we get to the late 80s, we see with MCs, they would merge dance and rap. It was like a complete performance you would get out of certain MCs, okay? MCs like Big Daddy Kane, okay? He was a great performer, great rapper. You had Heavy D, getting embraced by Teddy Riley with the New Jack Swing sound, okay? So in the New York scene, breakdancing and MCing and DJing is getting popular. We're in the late 80s, okay? And, people want to go to the parties and and show their new moves, go to the party and kick that rap so they can get the reaction out of the crowd. The DJ can't wait to spin these records that the crowd is going to go crazy over, okay? And when you're a DJ, like I said, you're playing what you're getting the most reaction out of. So if you got in your crate a Big Daddy Kane record, you know that they want to get down to that shit. You got a Heavy D record, you know they want to get down to that shit, okay? Now, enter Rakim. Rakim comes out, okay? Now, when Rakim comes, he kind of changes the game. Now, what a lot of people like to say about Rakim is that he changed the game in a way where he made it more technical. People were paying attention more to the lyrics than anything. And I still feel that artists like Grandmaster Caz and Kool Moe Dee were very lyrical. And I think that it was a lane for that. But I think that they were lyrical over like these party type of beats. All right. Like Kane was very lyrical. Okay. But Kane like was really known for his charisma, number one. Okay. His stage presence and performance. And then it was like his mic skills. That's from a casual hip hop fan. Now, diehard hip hop fans in the culture, of course, we love Kane for his lyrics because he's one of the best to ever do it. Okay, but when Rakim enters the scene in New York, Rakim, he's very technical, and I don't want to say he made people sit down and think about the lyrics, but he did change the game for DJs. All right, where the crowd wants to hear more of artists like Rakim. And when Rakim getting popular, record labels are wanting to sign artists like Rakim. So he is a game changer in a sense where Rakim, I'm assuming that when Rakim would write rhymes, he didn't specifically write rhymes to appease the crowd, to make people get up and shake their ass. I do think he had songs that were geared towards that. But a good amount of his songs were technical and were about his skills as an MC. So he like transformed the game into more of a head nodding thing. People would still breakdance to his shit, but most of his stuff, you know, was like head nodding shit, you know. Now, that's the late 80s. We get into the early 90s where breakdancing is still popular. But like I said, Rakim has made record labels look for artists that are in his lane. So we're seeing artists like Redman. Even though Redman and Rakim are not like in the same lane far as content, but lyrically, you know, Redman is a guy that makes you sit down and listen to his lyrics. He's very sharp lyrically and very witty. Okay, so you're listening to Redman to get some laughs and to get some cold punchlines and some cold metaphors and shit. All right, we're seeing the Wu-Tang Clan come out. Notorious B.I.G. comes out in the early 90s. Nas, okay. These are guys that like are making music that you can break dance to, but it's more of a head nodding type of thing. Now, the South is bubbling up around this time, okay? We get Outkast coming out in like 92 or 93. The Ghetto Boys are cementing their name. You know, they get their first big hit in the early 90s, like 91 or 92 with My Mind Playing Tricks on Me. Okay, the South is peeking their head in the door. Now, with artists like Kane and Heavy D, it was kind of dying out. Now, like I said, with record labels signing artists, you know, that are popular. So you got Heavy D's and Kanes out there. So record labels are looking for something like that too. This is how we get people like MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice. All right. Now, these are more pop acts. It's still hip hop, but it's like a pop act. All right. And these people are in demand with the crowd and making the crowd move. So DJs are spinning their shit. But at the same time, they are getting a lot of backlash from artists like Ice Cube, okay? Ice Cube in the early 90s, he dropped Death Certificate. And to me, you can credit Ice Cube for pretty much hitting the flush button on artists like Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer with his song True to the Game. I mean, he has a line in the song where he's saying, I'm quoting, You was hardcore hip hop, but look at yourself, boy, you done flip flop, giving our music away to the mainstream. Don't you know they not down with the team? So Ice Cube is pretty much saying that artists like MC Hammer, they don't care about you. They don't really care about you. They just want that hit. Another line I will quote in there is he says, "You're on MTV, but they don't care. They'll have a new nigga next year." So he's saying that, they don't care about you. It's all about the hit. When you die out, they don't give a fuck that you died out. They gonna have a new dude coming out making hits just like you. So when fans are hearing that, and people are very, very, it's easy to manipulate people. So I'm sure a lot of fans in the early 90s was hearing it like, yeah, you know what? I'm not trying to hear that Hammer shit no more. All right. So I hate to say that, like, artists like Heavy D kind of suffer from that, even though he still was doing pretty good in the early 90s. But like towards the mid 90s, this is when we're seeing like the decline of Heavy D, because hip hop is shifting. All right. Now that New York sound is, I know a Cube is on the west side, but like, Cube was also dealing with producers like the Bomb Squad and shit who produced Public Enemy. Now, still with that shifting in the culture where people are gearing towards head nodding music, but you still can kind of break dance to it, you're putting the DJ in a position where he has to spin these type of records. So he's not spinning MC Hammer and shit like that because, the crowd not trying to hear that shit. So now you got DJs that when it's time for you to dance, basically you're going to hear some R&B, some New Jack Swing R&B artists like, Guy. You would have Mary J. Blige. I wouldn't say she was a New Jack Swing artist, but she did have songs geared towards parties. So I'm sure in New York, this is what they were listening to, all right, when it came to dancing. The DJ would spin that shit. And when it came to hip-hop, it wasn't much for them to spin to get the crowd dancing unless it was like B-boys in there that's going to dance to the boom bap sounds that they're playing. Because boom bap is, DJ Premier is out with Gangstar and shit. So he's defining the New York sound. People like DJ Premier, people like the RZA, he's stepping in the door in the early 90s, So these guys are making a sound for New York that's pretty much geared towards head nodding / b-boying, not other hip hop dances. All right. Now, when we get to, I also need to note that in the early 90s, this is when 3 6 Mafia, the early, like going towards the mid 90s. So we'll just go to the mid 90s. Okay. In the mid 90s, this is when Bad Boy comes out and changes that sound. I shouldn't say change, but they redefine the New York sound where boom bap is pretty much in the background now, and now we're in the Puffy era, the Shiny Suit era, where Puffy is taking pop hits from the 80s, putting hip hop drum patterns in there where his producers would do that. And if you look at Bad Boy artists, a lot of those rap artists, most of the rap artists, you can say all of the rap artists that were signed under Bad Boy were street artists. Okay, Notorious B.I.G. was a street artist. Craig Mack, G-Dep, Mace used to be Murder Mace. Okay, but he would take these guys and have them rap over these high-paced beats that were heavily sampled from the 80s, and this is what the club was latching on to. Okay, now, hip-hop is still in a spot in New York where the head nodding is still cool and people are breakdancing to that. But with Puffy, his fucking era, like when he came out with those hits, it was no denying it. Now, growing up in the South, all right, people wasn't really trying to hear that head nodding b-boy shit. It wasn't really popular in the South. Now, I said in the early 90s, you had these artists bubbling up, Outkast coming out, UGK, you had these guys coming out. Now, I'm from Memphis. And Memphis, the sound in the mid-90s, dominating my area in Memphis, it was all about 3 6 Mafia, Player Fly, DJ Squeaky, okay, and artists that were in Texas and other regions in the South. if you went to a party, if a DJ decided to play some Redman at a party, they gonna look at him like he fucking crazy, because Memphis people really didn't get down with that stuff in the club scene. All right, now Bad Boy in the mid-90s, you can get away with that as a DJ in the South. They would play Bad Boy stuff. All right, so the DJ is in a position where he has to play music that moves the crowd. Like I said with Kool Herc and all the rest of the DJs, pretty much. You know, if you're a DJ, your job is to make sure that the building is on point, dancing and all of that. Okay, so a DJ in the South throwing on a Method Man album or a Wu-Tang Clan album in the club, they gonna look at them like, man, what the fuck is you doing? Okay, you can spin a Bad Boy album though, all right, and it will be no problem in the South. The only thing outside of Bad Boy you was playing was something from the West Coast or something from the South. Anything else outside of that was coming from the East, you pretty much not gonna do it. All right. Now these dancers are developing new dances and stuff. The East was good for this. In New York, they were good for creating new waves when it comes to dancing. All right. Now, in the mid-90s, we also have the South, artists in the South cementing themselves. And it's pretty much at a point where the South is nationwide now. These artists are going gold and platinum versus when they used to just barely go gold, you know. Now, Outkast comes out with their second album. AT Aliens was really successful in the mid-90s. You got the emergence of Master P. 3 6 signs a deal with Relativity like in the mid-90s heading toward the late 90s. So their sound is now nationwide, and 3 6 is responsible for creating a whole subgenre in hip-hop, which is crunk music. All right, now when you have this going on in the mid-90s, all right, with Master P taking his wave in New Orleans with his bounce type of music, Cash Money coming out like mid-late 90s with their bounce type of music, the sound in New Orleans with the DJ Screw sound in Texas, and the crunk sound being developed in Memphis, but also starting to merge in with Atlanta when Atlanta was doing the Atlanta bass sound. Now you got all, pretty much, I won't say all, but a lot of dances coming from the South. A lot of hip-hop dances are developing in the South. Now, I should have said in the early 90s, Memphis developed its own style of breakdancing. They call it juking. And it's more of a gliding, sliding type of style of breakdancing. All right. Now, you see a lot of mainstream artists do this style of breakdancing, and some of y'all don't even know it. Like, I've seen Michael Jackson do this shit. All right. For you guys, go on YouTube and look up juking, Memphis dancing, juking, and you can get a good sense of what I'm talking about with them developing this dance. Okay, like I said, the Atlanta bass sound, they're developing dances off the Atlanta bass sound with the Bankhead bounce and all of that stuff. All right, now, you also had in the early to mid 90s groups like, I forgot the name of the group, but they would have like the song Tootsie Roll, do the Tootsie Roll and all that stuff. All of this shit coming out of the South. I think they were from Florida, okay? And we can't neglect Florida with Luke developing his dance sound. Now, in hip-hop, in order for a sound to be defined, okay, in order for this sound to pick up steam and get nationwide acclaim, it all starts with the dancing and the DJ, okay? They have to accept it first. The dancers have to come up with the dances, making the crowd do pretty much that dance. Everybody wants to see if they can do that dance and execute that dance in the club scene, okay? The DJ sees this, so now he's inclined to play the music that goes with that dance, all right? So when you're in New York, and we're going to head towards the late 90s, early 2000s, when you're in New York and you see, you're a DJ in New York and you see that a lot of the crowd is reacting to the dances that are emerging from the South, all right? And these dances are geared or cater to, or should I say, going with the sound that's coming from the South. So the East was still like in the late 90s, the East was still like hanging on, but it wasn't really much developing far as dancing wise. So when you're a DJ in New York and you like, okay, how many times am I gonna spin this album that's gonna have you Harlem Shake? You know, Harlem Shake is something that came out like in the late 90s, early 2000s, okay? So I think the last popular dance I've seen come from New York is the chicken noodle soup, okay? And I could be wrong with that because I've never been to New York, okay? But this is just me, you know, with the little research I've done, all right? So New York, you know, with the Harlem Shake and the chicken noodle soup in the late 90s and early 2000s, only so many times you can do that as a DJ. The bad boy sound has died out going in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think the last great thing we got from the bad boy sound was the Harlem Shake. Okay, now these things are dying out though. All right, so now you have you're at a point now where all of the dances are coming from the South. Like 98% of the dances and stuff are coming from the South. So DJs are forced to go to clubs and play this. If they want to get booked for shows, okay, DJs got to keep their job. They have to play what the crowd wants, all right? And if nothing is coming out of New York, all right, far as dances and sounds that are making people dance, they're going to go to the next thing. They're not just going to sit there, all right? So they all gravitated towards a Southern sound, all right? And I think also with, as you can see that I'm pretty much putting this on the DJs and the dancers, the reason why the New York sound has shifted to a Southern sound. Now they all sound like Southern artists. Okay, I believe that that's one reason why. And the other reason why I think that the New York sound has developed into that instead of having something new and fresh for us is because there was no passing of the torch. When you look at artists in Atlanta, these artists in Atlanta, they pass the torch to each other. You know, it's after Lil Wayne is somebody else. You know, they all pretty much, they have like their little, they bump heads every now and then in the South, but pretty much they're united. And they all co-sign each other. When you look in the West Coast, you have a Godfather there. It used to be a Godfather in the East with Russell Simmons. Okay, Russell Simmons was like the Godfather and signing artists that gives us a whole new lane, a whole new sound in New York. But, you know, they don't have that anymore. Now, Dr. Dre is still active. He's the Godfather in California. Okay, now this guy is constantly giving us new artists that are, you know, it's a passing of the torch thing. You look at Snoop, you go from Snoop to The Game, from The Game to Kendrick Lamar, and now he has this cat Anderson .Paak coming out. All right, he's always making sure that it stays lit in California. Now, when you look at New York with no Godfather, and also the OGs in New York, the OG artists, they all started beefing with each other. Like in the late 90s, early 2000s, they all were beefing with each other pretty much. You had Nas and Jay-Z going at it. Mobb Deep against Jay-Z. Mobb Deep against Nas, okay? 50 Cent was beefing with damn near everybody in the East. So nobody is passing a torch down. Nobody is developing artists. And even when they have an artist that they're pushing out, they don't push them out the right way, if you ask me. A lot of them guys get mishandled. Look how 50 Cent handled Lloyd Banks, okay? I think he could have did more with him because Lloyd Banks had a pretty decent buzz. A lot of people were feeling him. But I think 50 Cent was more wrapped up in his success than trying to make sure that these guys get successful. Now, this is me on the outside looking in. Who knows? Maybe 50 Cent did all he could. I've heard stories about Lloyd Banks' work ethic. They say that the guy's pretty lazy, so maybe that has something to do with it. But for me on the outside looking in, I see a lot of these guys not passing the torch down. So with these artists not getting any cosign from big artists that are in New York, they look for other ways to get on. And when they go to a club in the hip hop scene and they like, Ain't nobody listening to this boom bap shit. Everybody is on the southern wave. So now you have an artist like A$AP Rocky, Tekashi 6ix9ine. Okay, these guys sound like artists from the South. And those two are like arguably the most popular artists in New York. I say the 3 top dogs in New York right now. I say 4. There's 4 top dogs in New York right now. You got A$AP Rocky, you got Cardi B, you got Tekashi 6ix9ine, and A Boogie. And all 4 of them people sound like they from the South. Fast forward years ago, who were the top dogs back in the days? It's far from how it was. You can't pull Jay-Z. You can't see any traces of Jay-Z in any of those 4 artists as popular. It's like no influence. They will show them love, but it's like no influence. It's like they're more influenced by Southern sounds. And I really believe that, it's the dance craving, the crowd, getting the sound popular. It's the DJ being forced to play that sound. And it's the fact that the OGs they mishandled these guys. Where is the new Self-Destruction song? Where is that? We're not seeing anything. You see posse cuts, but not like they used to be. Back in the days, man, you would have East Coast posse cuts, and this will be a way to break new artists. Look at I Shot You by LL Cool J. This is when we saw Foxy Brown for the first time, okay? LL was good for breaking new artists like that. Well, 4-3-2-1, and look how that got mishandled. He brings us Cannabis and brings us DMX, but then at the same time on 4-3-2-1, he started beefing with Cannabis. So now Cannabis' career didn't take off the way it should because you have an OG beefing with this guy. It's like New York, they like crabs in a bucket. And you can say the same for Memphis rap too, okay? Memphis got real lucky that the South sound just took off, and especially that Atlanta took crunk music and took it to a new height. Because in Memphis, all of those artists beef with each other, all of them. You can look that up. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But, like I said, I really think it's the crowd, the influencing of the crowd, the DJ being forced to play this, and mishandlement by the OGs, if that's a word, mishandling. Or mishandlement. I meant to say mishandling. The OGs mishandling new artists and breaking new artists. I think this is why we are at the point where we're at right now with New York, where they basically just sound like another extended version of the South. Okay, I'm going to end it right there. You guys get in the comment section and tell me what you think, because I'm really trying to figure out what's going on with New York. So get in the comment section, tell me I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. This is why New York is like this. Okay, if you think that I'm saying something or I'm hitting some points, you can get on there and expand it and tell me, more about what you think, what you can add on to what I'm saying, okay? And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. You guys have a good one. Peace.